The October 18th, 2017 meeting of the Windsor Planning Commission will now come to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Gail Schmidt.
Present.
Victor Talon.
Present.
Jerry Bushelman.
Present.
Dan Foreman.
Present.
Travis Yingst.
Present.
Ken Bennett.
Present.
Thanks, Crystal. First item on tonight's agenda is the review of the agenda itself by the Planning Commission. New business to be added.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the agenda as written.
Second. Then moved by Commissioner Talon, seconded by Commissioner Bushelman, that we accept the agenda as presented. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. And the motion carries unanimously. Next item is public invited to be heard. If there is anyone who has an item that is not on tonight's agenda that they wish to present to the board, now is the time to do so. And if you do have an item you wish to discuss, if you could come to the podium, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to give us the information. There's a red, yellow, green light on the podium there. When you get to the 2.5 minutes or 30 seconds left in the 3 minutes, the light will turn yellow to warn you that you got just 30 seconds left. When you have 3 minutes used, it will turn red. If there is anyone who wishes to present an item, now is the time to do so. Seeing there be none, we'll move along to the consent calendar, and we don't have anything under the consent calendar this evening. Board action items. First item is a public hearing. So I'm going to close our regular meeting, open up a public hearing for Diamond Valley annexation, extraction, oil and gas. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission. This is an annexation in accordance with Chapter 15, Article 1 of the Municipal Code, which outlines the purpose of the annexation requirements. The site is located east of Highway 257, about a mile, and about a half a mile, and on the north side of Eastman Park Drive, between Metal Container Court and Diamond Valley Park. This is the annexation plat. And the location, again, just north of the Howard Smith Avenue intersection at the Kodak plant. So the property owner is Extraction Oil and Gas, and the town and Extraction entered into an agreement in 2014, which allowed the town to annex the subject property if it wasn't already annexed by July 1st of 2016. Since the annexation hasn't been completed yet, the town initiated the annexation and has been working with the property owner ever since to work out the details of the annexation agreement and other details of the street improvements and other related aspects of the annexation. The site's approximately 65.2 acres, and the zoning is proposed to be heavy industrial, which is consistent with the industrial zoning to the east of the property. A neighborhood meeting was held on Tuesday, August 8th. One neighbor and 2 representatives from the property owner were in attendance, and there were no issues pertaining to annexation that were raised at that meeting. The subject proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan, Chapter 5B growth framework, and also is consistent with the Vision 2025 plan, which states, or it's consistent with the growth and land use management elements of the Vision 2025 document, and it's also consistent with the town board's strategic plan, thoughtful framework, and supportive infrastructure. Windsor has master plans to ensure the integrity of our municipal infrastructure. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval of the town board to the town board as presented, and the notification requirements. Notification was mailed to these surrounding property owners, and it was advertised per the code, and also certified packets were mailed to the taxing districts per the statutes. And then staff also requests that the following be entered into the record: the application and supplemental materials, staff memorandum and supporting documents, all testimony presented during the public hearing, and the recommendation. And I would also point out that there is a representative from the property owner if there are any questions as well.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Since this is the public hearing portion of the process, is there anyone who has any comments or questions pertaining to this agenda item?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second. Been moved by Commissioner Tallon, seconded by Commissioner Bushelman, that we close the public hearing. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes, those opposed vote no. Motion carries unanimously. Now reconvene our regular meeting, moving on to the next agenda item, which is the recommendation to the town board for Diamond Valley annexation, extraction, oil and gas. Anything else, Scott, that you want to add?
Not unless there are any questions.
Okay. Any comments, questions from the commission pertaining to this item?
Mr. Chair, I move that we forward a recommendation of approval to the town board as presented by staff.
A second.
Been moved by Commissioner Tallon, seconded by Commissioner Foreman, that we forward a recommendation of approval to the town board as presented by staff. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no. And the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the next item, so we'll close our regular meeting, open up a public hearing for rezoning petition for Eagle Crossing subdivision, second filing, Tract B, Eagle Crossing subdivision.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Foreman.
I request to recuse myself due to perceived conflict of interest.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, for the record, I would like to disclose that I'm a sitting member of the town board, and I am here in my capacity as non-voting liaison for the Planning Commission. Although I will be present during this public hearing, I will not be giving my opinion or participating in the discussion. I will not let tonight's proceedings influence or affect my review of this matter when it comes before the town board. I will make my decision at the town board level based only on the evidence presented during the town board public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Planning Commissioners. The applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 83 acres. In this case, the rezoning is being reviewed in accordance with Article 5, Chapter 16 of the Municipal Code. The site vicinity, it's located generally northeast of Crossroads and Fairgrounds Avenue. And the current zoning is a mix of limited industrial and general commercial. This request is to rezone approximately 30 acres, including the right-of-way, from limited industrial to high-density multifamily, or MF2, and the remaining 53 acres from limited industrial to general commercial. The limited industrial zoning of the site reflects the fact that this area of Windsor was envisioned primarily as industrial, given the location of the Walmart distribution center and the Ward Industrial Park in Loveland. That current industrial zoning permits a variety of uses, including various types of manufacturing, warehousing, automobile body shops, and all uses allowed within the GC zone district. The purpose of this rezoning is to allow for construction of a multifamily development at the future intersection of Steeplechase Drive and Ward Avenue. Staff is concurrently, another secondary purpose of this rezoning is to better align the zoning of the remaining property for the future Brands East PUD development. Staff is concurrently reviewing the Brands East planned unit development rezoning. However, per the municipal code, an underlying zone must remain, and given the fact that the proposed Brands East is predominantly commercial, the underlying zoning of GC is seen as the most appropriate zoning. The Brands East will require future public hearings before Planning Commission and Town Board for approval. Agenda item C6 is the preliminary site plan for that multifamily development previously mentioned. I do want to note that it's important to consider this rezoning request on its own merit, and that any action needs to be considered on the compliance of the rezoning request with the comprehensive plan and should not be based on any details contained within the site plan. The rezoning represents a redesign project based on neighbor feedback of a previously proposed rezoning of properties east of the current proposal. The Fossil Ridge subdivision's second filing rezoning was considered by Planning Commission in April of this year. There was opposition to that project by neighboring property owners, and Planning Commission voted against forwarding a recommendation of approval to Town Board. In response to that, the applicant requested Town Board continue the item at their April 10th meeting. The neighbors raised a number of concerns with the project, including traffic impacts, the proximity of the proposed project to single-family homes, as well as the height of proposed buildings. Please see the enclosed minutes for a full account of comments at that meeting. This revised proposal attempts to address neighbor concerns in a number of ways. The current proposal pushes the project further west, allowing for a buffer to the single-family homes located east of Highland Meadows Parkway. So the proposal previously was located more in this vicinity with single-family residential homes across Highland Meadows, a number of those property owners raising concerns. The current proposal is pushed further west. This proposal leaves at least one future development lot between Highland Meadows Parkway and the proposed rezoning, allowing for a future buffer between the homes and multifamily. Existing homes at the intersection of Highland Meadows Parkway.
Paul, excuse me a minute. Crystal, we're not getting what Paul is showing there for some reason. Yeah, the ballot. You still have the ballot. There we go. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Existing homes at the intersection of Highland Meadows Parkway and Hialeah Drive are approximately 600 feet from the boundary of the rezoning. So Hialeah Drive being at this location here. And Highland Meadows Parkway and Steeplechase Drive, that intersection, those homes are approximately 1,200 feet from the boundary of the rezoning, that intersection being located here. The proposal uses lower building heights with two-story buildings on the easternmost portion of the proposal, transitioning to three-story buildings on the west. Finally, the City of Loveland has installed a traffic signal at the intersection of Crossroads Boulevard and Ward Avenue, which is this intersection here. That intersection was installed to provide better access for Walmart trucks accessing the distribution center. This light and the sighting of the multifamily directly north would allow for a controlled intersection, which is particularly important for left turns into and out of the vicinity, providing greater safety and easier access. Additionally, the applicant has provided a traffic impact study with the site plan to assess the impacts of the development. The applicant's representatives held a neighborhood meeting on August 30th of this year. There were approximately 12 neighbors in attendance, and a neighborhood meeting summary is enclosed with a summary of that meeting. There was 2 additional public comments received outside of that meeting. One being a letter of support enclosed in your packet materials. The second being a letter received yesterday from a neighboring property owner in opposition. So I do want to enter that letter that was received after the packets were prepared. Do want to enter that into the record. and it's available on the H drive for planning commissioners should you wish to review that or have a hard copy available. The application is consistent with the following goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. Chapter 5C, Residential Areas Framework Plan. The goal states support diverse housing and residential neighborhoods to meet the needs of varying family sizes, lifestyles, and income levels. Objective 4, foster a diversity of housing types and sizes through coordinated land use planning and zoning. Objective 5, support high-density residential development near downtown, commercial centers, and mixed-use nodes. The staff analysis of that goal and those objectives is as follows. The comprehensive plan identifies lack of housing diversity as an area upon which Windsor needs to improve. According to the plan, 82% of Windsor's housing stock is detached single family. The plan acknowledges that will remain the predominant form in Windsor, however, highlights the importance of a more diverse housing stock. This includes the development, according to the plan, this includes the development of townhomes, multifamily, and mixed-use products that are both owner and renter occupied. These uses are best placed near commercial areas to encourage walkability and serve as a land use transition to single-family residential neighborhoods. These housing product options will appeal to young families, downsizing retirees, senior citizens, and others that do not desire large single-family homes on large maintenance-intensive lots. Multifamily housing on the subject property will provide more housing options for residents. It will be located in close proximity to the future commercial area at the Brands East and will also serve as a transition from the Fossil Ridge or Belmont Ridge neighborhood to the Brands East commercial development. Chapter 5D, Commercial Industrial Areas Framework Plan, includes the goal of maintaining the character of the community while accommodating future growth that is fiscally and environmentally responsible. Staff analysis of that is as follows. The portion of the site proposed to be rezoned from limited industrial to general commercial should help ensure development maintains the character of the surrounding area due to the commercial nature of Fairgrounds Avenue. The proposal to rezone 30 acres from industrial to multifamily would be a negligible loss of potential commercial industrial tax base for the area, as there would still be over 200 acres of undeveloped commercial or industrial zone property in the area. The infusion of additional residents in the area may actually help spur commercial development and associated tax revenue for the town. Additionally, the location of residential development in close proximity to commercial development is a model that has been shown to be more environmentally responsible, as it can help reduce the amount and distance of vehicle trips. There was notification sent for both the neighborhood meeting as well as this public hearing and the town board public hearing, done in accordance with the municipal code to property owners shown on the map in front of you. Staff recommends Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval of the rezoning petition and ordinance to town board, subject to all remaining Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed. Staff requests the following be entered into the record: application and supplemental materials, staff memo, supporting documents, all testimony received during the public hearing, and the recommendation. That concludes my presentation. I do want to note the applicant is here and has a presentation as well, unless there's any immediate questions for staff.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have the applicant give his presentation.
This one.
We can have to use the mouse. Okay.
Hi, good evening, Chairman Schick, Commissioners. Martin Lynn, 1625 Pelican Lakes Point, Windsor, Colorado. We're here tonight for version 2.0 of this project, and I think how this process is working is exactly how it's supposed to work. We asked the town board to not hear it so that we could go back and address the neighbors' concerns, take a lot harder look at what it was we were building, how we're building it, and where we're building it. And I think tonight we're excited to present a much, much better project. And kudos to the neighborhood and the neighbors for asking us to do that. Our companies take a lot of pride in trying to do the right thing in Windsor, Colorado, and with the evolution of the brands and the exciting shopping and the dynamics that that's creating, the new location of this project for the multifamily part of this allows for a very easy transition and walking right into that project. I'm gonna breeze through a little bit that Paul has already done so we don't become redundant. The area is in purple that we're asking to rezone tonight. That's a conceptual site plan of the commercial and pretty much an accurate site plan of the residential. The three major concerns that we heard were there was a lot of requests to keep industrial zoning along Highland Meadows. While I personally don't think that's the right thing to do, and that when the Highland Meadows East area was developed, the back door to Windsor was considered to be this heavy industrial area. We all know that that's changed. John Turner's great project up the road with the golf course has changed the dynamics and the DNA of West Windsor, along with the success at the Bud Center and all the new retail that's coming in the brands. It's dramatically changing. But the project in front of you tonight preserves that request, and it leaves that zoning along Highland Meadows. We didn't have good answers for traffic last time we were here in April, and that's not fair. We should have done a better job of that. So we've retained, I think, what would be considered one of the highest respected traffic engineers of the state, Matt Delich. Windsor staff regards him with the highest. And we have those conclusions here tonight. And also, there is no height variance tonight where we had a height variance last time. Lowered the impact to the height concerns. And those were the three major concerns. There were other concerns that after the public hearing tonight, if I'm allowed to come back up and address them, if there's more, I'll be happy to if we can. The zoning in yellow is the multifamily. The red is from industrial to commercial. I might add that we don't need to rezone that from industrial to commercial because the uses for commercial that we anticipate are use by right under the industrial. But we think, and we concur with Windsor staff, that it's a much cleaner and much better project to just take it all back into commercial zoning. And it's giving up quite a few uses by right that we have over there right now. But we're happy to do that to make this project that much cleaner and that much better. Again, this is the site plan. Traffic study that I had mentioned. So the traffic study was commissioned to study this exact use, the amount of units exactly on the site plan, versus the use by right as industrial zoning. And the conclusion of the traffic study is based on that site plan and those units. And you will see that nearly 50% of the trip generation, and this is for both AM and PM, AM and PM are nearly identical. Nearly 50% goes straight south, 43% goes west, and 8% goes to the east. And there's really simple math for that. The simple math is because this young professional or this person that's living here is working and they're heading to the interstate. And I didn't have time to put on a PowerPoint, but I brought a visual. And this is a little dark, but I'll leave it up here I'll show it to the public first. This is basically northern Colorado, Wellington to Highway 34. And if you look at the last evolution of multifamily projects in northern Colorado, Wellington is putting theirs on the interstate. Timnath is putting theirs on the interstate. Fort Collins is crowding as close to the interstate as you can. Loveland and the Centera and South Ward Vanderwall annexations, and then of course the Johnstown annexation. They're all migrating this multifamily to the interstate. And here's the very, very simple math. And not by any imaginable scale, but this is our project. And this project is going to migrate to the interstate. So it's a different scale, and I'll show the public first, but it doesn't matter where you put units. They're going to go south, and they're going to go west, and they're going to migrate. So the slippery slope that we're challenged with tonight is if these units, if we say no to this diverse housing and to these units in Windsor, if we say no, they're going to go somewhere because Northern Colorado is growing. So if they go to Timnath, we're going to get the traffic. If they go to Severance, we're going to get the traffic. If they go to anywhere in Windsor, we're going to get the traffic. If they go over here in North Greeley, they're going to come down Crossroads, and we're going to get the traffic. So the migration is to the interstate. And now that we've created the brands, we're creating the amenity where people want to live. The largest and nicest movie theater in the state of Colorado is going to be at the Brands. It'll be within walking distance of this. And we've really tried to bring Windsor into that project and make it all one thing, Loveland and Windsor. And Loveland sees the benefits of that, and they've really embraced the multifamily in the Brands because they want, that's a lifestyle component that they really, really want to attract. And the most important thing tonight is the fear of multifamily is a myth. There's a question about subsidized and low-income housing and that kind of thing. That is not what we're talking about here tonight. In fact, these apartments, these rentals will achieve the highest rents in probably all of Northern Colorado because of the proximity. And so this is not subsidized, low income. This is not residential to fear. This is a very, very good amenity. And one of the most important things that we want to address tonight is the myth of a multifamily. So there is a Harvard study that I'm going to get to right after I've bust through the traffic real quick. There's the traffic actual counts of generation. The orange being industrial, the blue being residential trips. And something that can't be shown on that but is very, very glaring is the industrial trip is more than likely a truck and trailer. A lot of truck and trailer traffic, which is currently what's up there. There's a lot of truck and trailer traffic up there. Where the blue on the multifamily is residential cars. I mean, that's the reality of that graph. It doesn't show it by vehicle breakdown. But the reality is industrial and residential are not a harmony in any stretch of the imagination for land development. And that when the Highland Meadows and Fossil Ridge area developed, it developed up into that industrial. And that's fine. But the reality of it is we're not here to just be stuck with that mistakes of the past, and I don't think it was necessarily a mistake. If the Highland Meadows area had all been developed industrial, it wouldn't have been a mistake. But as those zonings changed over the years, we need to pay attention to this and we need to accommodate that. The site plans changed significantly. We've moved it back west, which I'm excited about, and I give the credit to the neighbors on this. We didn't really think about it this way originally, but when you look at the intermodal transportation access to where the residential now is versus where we had it originally, it's much better. We also have a lot of topography back, and we do not need height variance with this plan. So the density concern was one of the concerns that was addressed. It wasn't something that we took lightly, so we really studied that. And we are asking for an MF2 zoning. But we are also presenting tonight the specific site plan and the units that we're building. So we know exactly what's going to be built there tonight, where we didn't know that last spring. And if you look and pay attention, MF1 zoning, which is a lighter zoning, is 18 units per acre. And so you'll see that at 18 units per acre, that's a lower zoning, that's MF1. The project in front of you tonight on the residential portion of this rezoning request is 18.8, barely over the threshold of MF1. So we are asking for an MF2, but the specific project in front of you is technically an MF1 zoning request. So we've lowered that down, we've added acres to do that, and we're really trying to be compassionate and listening to what the entire region wants and what's best for Windsor. So now let's talk about what actually is this type of diverse housing. Harvard did an extensive study on this. We're happy to give the commission the full study. It's hundreds of pages. But one of the concerns was overcrowding schools. These are just simple facts. These aren't hypothetical things. These are just simple facts. A neighborhood with 100 single-family homes produces 51 children that are school age. The same number of apartments produce 31. So that's just boilerplate fact. Property taxes. Apartments are single unit owned. They're developed under commercial code, and they are owned under commercial lending. They're taxed as commercial. So technically, because of Colorado, Gallagher, and Tabor, apartments pay 3 times what residential does. They're taxed at commercial. And the owner of the property pays the taxes, single owner. So apartments pay almost triple what a single family does. And then when it comes to resources, obviously they don't have big lawns, they're not consuming near the water, and they're extremely efficient when it comes to infrastructure. Nationwide studies on multifamily units they have proven that mixed-use residential next to single family produces a higher net value on your single families. And I'm hearing some snickers, and that's okay, but I will tell you right now, the most expensive housing in Windsor, Colorado is in Marina Doce in Water Valley, and it's exactly adjacent to 20 acres of MF2. I would argue that if you had very undesirable, low-income, or subsidized housing, I would argue that that stat right there would not be true. But the young professional moving to Windsor, Colorado that's looking for a place to live but can't afford a single-family home, which, by the way, Windsor's average home resale price is $100,000 higher than anywhere else. We're chasing away the young professional for affordability. We're chasing away a freshly divorced mother of 2 that doesn't have anywhere else to go, because we really have no diversity in housing. But these are just factual studies, and I don't know how to argue it other than we have it happening right in Windsor, Colorado. There's another project going on in Windsor, Colorado called The Falls. Each one of those lots is about $1 million sale for a contemporary home. On each entrance to that project is multifamily, currently under construction. Social aspects, I won't go on this real long, but there's a lot of convincing, and this is just, again, studies and facts, that apartment dwellers they're not introverted, and they're not hiding, and they're not peeking out of their windows. They're dynamic young professionals. They're energized in the town, they're interested in politics, they're very involved in the community. This project is a much better project than what we had in front of you, and it's how the system should work. And I take responsibility for that. The first project we brought in, we didn't have the exact number. We knew what the traffic was, but we didn't have it documented. We now have it documented. We've moved the thing back almost 1,000 feet, and it's better for the brands, and it's better for Windsor. Architecturally, I've asked the developer to add in masonry. Window eyebrows above on the corner for architectural elements. And it's an excellent project. It's got 2- and 3-story, and it also has a giant clubhouse, community center, and this is a very high quality, high class project, and it far exceeds Windsor codes when it comes to multifamily standards. So I will defer to the public hearing, or I will take questions now, at your desire.
Okay, thanks, Mark. What we'll do is see if we have some questions from the public here. And,
Okay.
And we'll capture those, and you can address them at the end of that.
Thank you
Okay?
very much.
Okay, thanks. This is the public hearing portion of the process. Is there anyone who has any comments, questions pertaining to this agenda item? And if you do, if you raise your hand, I'll call on you, but we'll get everybody to, that wants to speak. We'll give you an opportunity to speak. And again, you'll have 3 minutes. So, gentleman way in the back.
Good evening. My name is Colin Sanders. I live at 7035 Ruidoso Drive. So I appreciate the presentation and the changes that they talked about making to this project. I guess there are a couple of things that I believe were not necessarily misstated, but misunderstood. And I won't speak for my neighbors, I'll let them speak for themselves. The frustration when this project was brought to us previously was we had an either-or choice, MF2 or industrial. The idea was, or the thought was, at least in my mind, I was opposed to the multi-family high-density project. And so he said, well, we're at 18.8 versus 18. I would ask them to sharpen their pencil a little more, and let's get it down to that 18. If they're going to do it and you're going to go forward, let's go MF1. The other thing was, had the area, the buffer area, I would love to have something other than industrial there, but that wasn't ever given to any of us as an option. They talk about the traffic. I haven't had a chance to see this new proposal, but I can tell you this, on Friday and Saturday night or any night that there's an event at the Budweiser Event Center, Aladar becomes unusable for anyone going south and west. As was presented, that's where the traffic would go. You cannot make a left turn off Aladar onto County Road or Fairgrounds Parkway. The crime thing, I've talked to officers in Loveland. They've indicated to me, yes, there is a higher propensity for crime in multifamily units in Loveland. I worked with one of them on one of the coaching staffs at one of the local high schools, and he has unequivocally said that's the case. Those are my concerns. If we had a different option for that buffer zone, I think that would be a great accommodation. I would ask them to sharpen their pencil. Let's get it to MF1 if this is going to go forward. And my property value, I want to remain what it is. And I believe that this will lower that. We moved into this region and had an expectation, and I think that we should be able to continue with that expectation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ma'am?
I guess my first comment would be...
Could we get your name and address, please?
Excuse me. My name is Kim Davey. I live at 8795 Longs Peak Circle in Steeplechase. And just a comment to one of the things that Mr. Lynn said is if all those people are heading south, I don't know how they're going to King Soopers to shop. And I doubt that they're going to go to the interstate and then drive down and then go up 392. My impression would be that they would go down Steeplechase, hit Highland Meadows, or Steeplechase to County Road 13, because there is no other grocery store out there. So that's just one comment. I am opposed to the rezoning of this 30-acre parcel from light industrial to high-density MF2. It does not seem like a good fit on many levels. First of all, not much really has changed from last spring when this was denied, other than the 19 units being moved to the west by a couple of lots, as Martin indicated. 4 units will be 2-story, 15 will be exactly the same as before. There are still 19 buildings, 407 to 429, depending on which report you read, and 645 parking spots, with a potential of 900 plus people. That's based on, if you research this, 2.2 per unit. There's an overwhelming amount of apartments and other housing being built and improved around this section with the bluffs and the other areas, including rain dance. With rain dance's 2,800 dwellings and the proposed 19 units, just considering those two on this property based on the 2.2 average, that would increase the population on this end of town by over 7,000 people on both sides of our subdivision in less than a mile and a half. I don't think this area can handle that kind of influx of people, probably why the whole area wasn't zoned MF2 to begin with. This does not sound like good planning and seems to only benefit the developer and the builder. Perhaps a better idea would be to spread this high-density housing around Windsor. As one of you quoted last spring, it's better to build from the inside out. There are vacant properties already in town zoned MF2, so why change other zoning areas before these existing areas are used? The large triangle property on the southwest corner of New Liberty and 7th Street is already zoned MF2, and the real estate sign across the street on the northeast corner of New Liberty and 7th refers to multifamily, and I'm sure there are others. If this current proposal area has to be rezoned from light industrial, then change it to single-family homes, where numbers would be much lower and home ownership and pride would be in place. I'm not opposed at all to growth or development, as long as it is planned and done with the interest of the residents and the city in mind. As a board, isn't that your job to represent the majority and not a limited few? I urge you to vote no.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone else? Yes, sir. We do not have applause during the meetings. This is a public hearing, so we'll keep it as that.
Hello, my name is Pat Davey. I live at 8795 Longs Peak Circle. It seems like deja vu from April to here, reviewing this same thing as we did. You guys probably know that your decision was 5-2 against the proposal last time. And I think my wife stated some of the reasons why you guys didn't approve the rezoning last time, but we didn't really have a chance. We had 150 people to go to town board meeting that next week after that, and we didn't even get a chance to voice our concerns to them because Martin Lynn's attorney withdrew, or whatever you call, we didn't get to even say our opinions. But I think other things have been said about the issues here with not only the traffic. I don't agree with the traffic study. I mean, I'm no traffic engineer, but I know if I'm going to the library, I'm not going south out of this subdivision. You know, I'm going to Steeplechase. If I'm going to church down at Our Lady of the Valley or any of the Presbyterian church, the only church near that place is, what do you call it, Resurrection. So all the churches are downtown, and that's the part of it, is make these people part of the community. And when you're building that kind of infrastructure way out there, I understand that Martin says that Wellington's growing towards the interstate. Wellington is on the interstate. You know, Windsor's not on the interstate, it's 4 miles inland, you know? So anyway, you know, that's where downtown is there. So anyway, the scope of this project, 19 buildings, 15 of them are 3-story buildings. Okay, there's not many buildings in this town that are about this building right here, the high school, maybe some of the churches are about the only size buildings that are as big as 15 of these buildings out there. And just a thought of multifamily and the size of this complex. You all are, I'm sure, well aware of the low-income housing. Not that I'm referring to this as low-income, but that subdivision out over there on Tipton and Highway 15, or I mean on Road 15, you know, north of the grade elementary school. That's there's 80 units in there. 80 units, okay? There's 9 buildings. None of them are 3 stories, they're 2 stories. You know, 80 buildings. That's 5 times. His subdivision out here is going to be 5 times bigger than that low-income housing one. The one he has up there on the hill, that Pelican Bluffs, that's already done, and nobody includes all those. Your comprehensive plan is kind of outdated, you know, now, because there's so many permits out there for multifamily, and that's something to look into if I could ask you to do that. But there's 196 rental units up here on Pelican Hills. That's 2 times smaller than what this new one will be. 2 times smaller than what he's proposing out there by us. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Dale Gaither. I live at 5285 Black Hawk Drive. It's in the Steeplechase subdivision, and I oppose this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brevity works well. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Bill Saunders. I live at 8570 Steeplechase Drive in Steeplechase. I'd like to thank Mr. Lynn for doing the studies and everything that he did. The one thing I would question is that, there's a light on that road. I'm not sure what the name of it is, the one you pointed out that goes south. We have a tremendous amount of truck traffic that comes down and goes out Steeplechase because they can't make the turn on the road that, I don't know the name of it either, that goes just along the outer part of that area that's on the housing area and the other. And because they can't turn there, they come down Steeplechase. Most of the people that are in that area, when they are going to Windsor and that sort of thing, as they said, there's no grocery store or anything, they're all going to be going there, and the amount of traffic that's already going over the new Liberty Road is incredible, and that intersection is getting very difficult to get in and out of there. So you're just going to increase the number of people going that way because they can't get out, and if they go to that light, that's a fairly short road. If they back up too far, they're going to come out that way, or they're going to go lots of other ways. And so I would like to see him, if he's going to do some kind of development, put some kind of a in your commercial area, grocery stores, things that will attract those people. Having people just go to a movie theater doesn't cut it. So I would appreciate it if you would try to make sure that those people do go to those commercial areas and not cut down through our area. Our area is a residential area, and having gigantic heavy trucks constantly roaring through there way over the speed limit is not appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Anyone else?
Gentlemen,
Ladies?
my name is Mike Gunderson. I live at 4611 Freehold Drive here in Windsor. I oppose this, and I agree with everything that the people who oppose it say. I appreciate his studies. I don't agree with them. My daughter was a police officer in Longmont, Colorado, and she says the greater majority of their calls are from high-density, multifamily, and not low-income, multifamily units. This is a very ambitious project. I don't understand. So we put a few buildings up front and we make those two-story, and we think, oh, that'll do the job. They all should be two-story if they're going to be there at all. The traffic study, agree with everybody that's talking about the traffic. I mean, a little common sense will tell you that increase in the number of cars is going to cause a problem, okay? They're not all going to go south. A lot of them are going to go east. A lot of them are going to go north, okay? That's going to happen. You need to think about this seriously. If it was in your neighborhood, you might think a little deeper about this. If they were being built right next to his neighborhood, I suspect he'd oppose them. So I'm saying, think about it seriously, gentlemen. You're affecting a lot of people. Crime rate will go up. Congestion will go up. There will be a drain on the physical facilities of Windsor. There'll be extra repair needed for the roads with all that traffic. Think about it. Don't think short term. Think long term. If you're going to do anything there, I agree with the other person. Single family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, try and keep this short. I know you have a pretty long agenda tonight. My name is Ron Steinbach, and my wife and I, Rachel, have lived at 7008 Ruidoso Drive for almost 10 years. For more than 20 years, Windsor and the surrounding communities have been trying to prepare for the growth, the impacts of the growth along the I-25 corridor. In 2001, Windsor participated in the I-25 corridor plan and the development and the publication of that. The plan identified roughly 1 mile east, 1 mile either side of the I-25 right-of-way as the corridor. That puts us right next to the highest growing area in the state, in the northern part of the state. The corridor plan back in 2001 recognized how fast things were developing. I guess my point is it's unreasonable to expect that we shouldn't have any impacts from the growth resulting from our location next to this busy corridor. You want less traffic? You didn't move far enough away. You didn't build your house far enough away from I-25. Our hope is to create a residential buffer between the commercial development that's planned along Fairgrounds and Highland Meadows Parkway. And this project is a good first step. And we believe that the developers have successfully made a good faith effort to mitigate the perceived concerns on the impacts on the surrounding neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name's Todd Gaches. I own...
Could you give me the name again?
Todd Gaches.
Todd.
My wife and I own 2 properties in the same neighborhood as several of the folks here. 7039 Ruidoso and then 7040 Aladar. I own several businesses, and we're planning on opening a business in Windsor, a delivery pizza chain that would impact us, that would benefit us greatly with this development. But I think it would have such a negative impact to our neighborhood that I'm vehemently opposed against it. The town of Windsor invested over $1 million in a park right on the corner of our neighborhood for our neighborhood to enjoy. Adding 900 people to that area, we already have issues in that area and people coming to the park and doing disturbing things. Adding 900 more people within walking distance would really, in my opinion, decimate our property value and would negatively impact the neighborhood. So I ask you to keep what you had originally as light industrial. You had the right idea. We wouldn't have bought our house had we known there were going to be apartments right around the corner. And I ask you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Anyone else? Ma'am?
Emily Gunderson. I live at 4611 Freehold Drive, and I'm opposed to this rezoning for all the reasons already mentioned, but I'd like to also state again that the problem is the density of people you're going to have in the neighborhood there. Mr. Lynn specifically said there's going to be young professionals or the primary people going to be living there, but I have to wonder, with our population aging the way it is, that it would probably be in the city's best interest to have townhomes or condos that are single story for those people. I think that would be a better fit for what's in the neighborhood, and you wouldn't have all that density again because of traffic. You are going to have crime rise. I'm ex-law enforcement, and I do know that even accounting for the increase in population, you're going to have more crime because you just have more of a transitory nature of the residents that are living there. I also would like to see townhomes or condos because I feel like there is more of a pride of ownership for the people that are living there and people that would be more tied to the community. And also people mentioned the other developments that are going in. We already have several multifamily housing units going in, and within close proximity to us, I don't see the necessity for yet another one. And it doesn't seem like the plan has changed much from the last time. All they have done is move it over. Our house backs up to Steeplechase, so if you put a 3-level apartment complex, you will probably block our mountain view. And that's a significant decrease in our property value. And there's nothing we can do. We can't move. I mean, that's a large expense to go ahead and move. people moving into the apartments wouldn't have that skin in the game. I mean, maybe a first month rent, safety deposit, if they decide to move because they don't like something going on, they can. It's a lot harder for someone that owns a home to move because this is being rezoned. And again, we wouldn't have moved here if we had known that this was going to be rezoned multifamily housing. We thought it was going to be just light commercial. So I would ask the board to consider that. Again, all the issues with the traffic that people have already mentioned, they're not just going to go south. They're going to take Steeplechase east to 13 to get into town. And as you said, I mean, this development is nowhere near downtown. So I think it would be better for us to spread these out throughout the community instead of concentrating them in this dense area right by the highway. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Chris Payne. I'm at 7039 Aladar Drive. And also I'm opposed to this proposal. I'm very new to the neighborhood. I just recently moved in with my future wife, and I've been living in the neighborhood now for several months. Came from a property out in Loveland, Boyd Lake area, higher end area. Never had a problem crime-wise. After I sold that property, I rented a property in one of the higher areas of Fort Collins, Fossil Ridge, in some multi-family dwellings. And in the matter of 9 months, I had the police at my house over 3 or 4 times for different incidents happen there. So there's no doubt that the crime or what happens in these type of facility or housing developments definitely goes up when you start condensing people into these type of situations. Second thing, being new to the neighborhood, my daughter, within the first weeks of living there, got T-boned in an intersection off of Highland Meadow Parkway and very likely could have been killed. The traffic that is there in that area already with what exists is almost too much for what's there now. If you've ever been up on Crossroads and dealing with that new stoplight that was addressed for the Walmart distribution center, that light does not line up with the streets that come into our neighborhood. It lines up with what comes into an industrial neighborhood. So it's great that it stops traffic, but it actually is causing more harm than good. It's allowing the Walmart trucks to turn out, but in a 5 o'clock time frame, it's condensing traffic so heavily there that people are swerving around each other and it's gotten erratic. You add another 900 cars or 900 potential cars to the neighborhood, it's only going to get worse. So, without the grocery stores and without the infrastructure of this side of town built yet, to start adding all this stuff in now, it seems like it's putting the cart in front of the horse. I understand people wanting to buffer with subdivisions or other areas in this side of town, but I think that there's a lot of things the town of Windsor needs to build on that west side first to prepare for before we start adding a whole bunch more people into that area. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Ma'am?
Hi, Kimberly Gages, 7039 Ruidoso and 7040 Aladar. And I'm opposed to the rezoning for what everyone else has said. We wouldn't have bought this house if we knew there was going to be apartments there. We knew it was light industrial. We were okay with light industrial. To say that, oh, that's bad for the neighborhood when we all knew it was there doesn't make any sense. There's no way traffic through Highland Meadows, that tiny little street in Steeplechase, isn't going to increase. We even called the police station to ask about apartments, and they said it is always higher crime. This was Windsor Police. So I have to debunk the study. I don't see how that can be true. And the home values, who wants to live by apartments? When you save all your life to buy a nice house, you don't want to live by apartments. So to say our values won't go down is ridiculous, because I wouldn't buy there if those apartments had been there. So I hope that you vote no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? In the back?
My name's Catherine Fair. I live at 7038 Aladar Drive. In the interest of time, I have nothing to offer other than I do oppose this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Yes, sir, right there.
Ron Steinbach again. I just want to do a follow-up on the issue of crime in the apartments. I talked to Lieutenant Dodd on the police and asked him specifically these questions related to crime. And he said, the only thing you can say for sure is if there's more people in a town, there's probably going to be more crime. There is no statistics in Windsor that high-density development has more crime, and there's no statistics that that crime bleeds over into the surrounding areas. Thank you.
There's a lady back there.
My name is Lisa Masudi. I live at 7004 Ruidoso Drive. I'm opposed also for the aforementioned reasons. I just wanted to say my husband and I own several condos in the Centera area, High Plains Village and Lakeshore at Centera. Those are both highly desirable neighborhoods because they border protected areas, protected land. The property values have remained high, and we've had consistent high-quality renters over the years, both young professionals, some semi-retired, people in transition, and we've had all ages and types. And I think those two developments could they're more attractive, and something like that, I think, it's basically equidistant on the other side of the highway. Something like that would be, I think, better suited for the fields over by us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sir.
Again, my name is Pat David at 8795 Longspeak Circle, but just a little, since Ron took the time to come up a second time, I would just like to commend Mr. John Turner on another item later in the agenda. You're going to do a final subdivision review for him, and it's half the acres, his subdivision, half the acres of Mr. Lynn's is. He's got 98 total units, but he's got a mix of 30 single-family units, 11 duplexes, and 27 rentals or townhomes and things like that. That's what we're after for in the complex. In this comprehensive plan is diversity in our types of living units. And I think that's what, something like that subdivision is what we're looking for in what Mr. Lynn's proposing, instead of all out rental properties. Thank you.
Just a note to kind of keep the time under control here. If you've already come up to the podium and given us your comments, you've used your turn. We're not trying to turn this into a debate tonight. We just want to get your opinion and give you the opportunity to do that. So anyone else have any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am. And if someone before you has stated an issued item, we don't have to hear the same thing over, but just agree with the previous or before speaker. Okay.
All right, thank you. My name is Jody Stark, and I live at 7039 Aladar Drive. I'm opposed to the project. I'm in agreement that I think a better option, rather than this high density with this many people being brought into an area that lacks infrastructure. When I saw the traffic study, immediately what popped into my head is that isn't realistic, because of mainly the Budweiser Event Center and all these other, really exciting, great things they're going to be building in the area. But I have to look up the Budweiser Event Center schedule to know which way to drive right now, and it's always down Steeplechase because you can't turn left. And the road that's going to come out of this new subdivision heading west, the amount of traffic that the traffic study has predicted is really not realistic. So anyway, I bought the house there several years ago, not to reiterate what anyone else thinks, but as a single person built my home there 4 years ago. It's a wonderful community. It's safe. Everyone remarks about how safe it is. And we really like it the way it is. We want the area to grow, but we don't want to lose the really great environment that we have in our community. So thank you for listening to us.
Thanks, Jody. Other comments? Way in the back?
Thank you. Adam Yeager, 5506 Evangeline Drive. Basically, I'm definitely opposed, just like everyone else, all the same reasons. I live in the area that has the park. Our neighborhood also has an open space around it. We're the only ones that have that around our neighborhood there. One of the reasons that I like to be there, I'm out there all the time. Putting all these people over there puts pressure on our open space. They're able to walk through all that. There's trash already from construction and from just people. You add on more people using that, there's more dog feces, there's more trash. We found all sorts of things in the park. We have people coming to our park all the time, parking on our roads. Aladar runs into it's our southern entrance into our neighborhood. And at certain afternoons in the week, every week, it's hard to get in, even into our neighborhood as it is, because of all the vehicles that totally blatantly, there's no parking signs and they do it anyway. I know I've seen cops there occasionally, but that's only going to get worse with this many people. It's the only park that's anywhere near, unless you drive all the way north up into the Highland Meadows Park, which is they're probably not going to do when they have this across the street. Obviously, Mr. Lynn wants to sell this land, and rezoning has to happen for that deal. At least that's what he told us in April. I'm assuming it's still the same. I know he's a businessman, and I actually respect that. I am pro-business, but I'm also pro-us, and this affects us, and that's why I'm opposed to it, because of all that. Mr. Lynn had a quote in the Loveland Reporter-Herald when he was talking about the brands, and he said, Johnstown, Timnath, Windsor, Meade are all praying this will be rejected, because he is a businessman, and he's in it for the money. And Loveland was going to get the lion's share of that, according to the Loveland Herald and the quote that he had. When I found out that Journey Homes was the one wanting to build this, I looked them up online, and there's a lot of stuff that was, according to the internet, issues in Loveland, specifically with their concrete, their building, lower standards of building, according to the Loveland Reporter-Herald. Mr. Lynn said that this is a really high-priced condo unit, but if it's crumbling due to poor construction, I've never had a Journey home, I've never seen a Journey home, I don't know it firsthand, I'm basing it off the Loveland Reporter-Herald, and the Denver News Channel came up and did a story on their construction techniques and the concrete issues, weeds growing in through the carpet in the houses in Johnstown. So I'm opposed, and I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Lady way in the back.
Hi, I'm Shelley Wright. I live at 8423 Starfish Court in Highland Meadows. I have a few concerns that weren't addressed specifically in the presentation and wanted to make sure that they get looked at least. First of all, this is actually a PSD school district, so I wanted to make sure that the impact was looked at through PSD eyes as opposed to the Weld County schools. Just because of the issues that we've had even developing the new schools up on Harmony, I feel like there might be a huge impact to the school district there. Secondly, I wanted to address the zoning with the M1 as opposed to the M2. I feel like the fraction of the 18.4 as opposed to 18 is a very small fraction compared to the 31 potential that may be may become what it expands to just because it's zoned that way. So I feel like that could be an issue, and it might be more beneficial to just bring it back down to the 18. Thirdly, I just wanted to mention the height of a 3-story apartment building impacts the community. And I feel like as you look at the area, the only other thing that tall is maybe the summit. Otherwise, you're looking clear up onto Budweiser. So I feel like those 3 issues also would need to be addressed. Thank you.
Shelley? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Kurt Reinke. I live at 5203 Hialeah Drive, and I just wanted to express that I oppose this as well. And I like the idea of townhomes or lower density. Thank you.
Okay. Man, way in back.
My name's Deanne Cooley, and I live in 702826 Ruidoso Drive in Windsor in Highland Ridge subdivision, and I'm highly opposed to this. I've lived there for 11 years. It's an amazing place, and I like that it's safe and it's quiet and it's growing so fast right now that we're having so much problems with the trash and the kids that have nothing to do. Nothing else is going to happen for these kids to do or to go. I'm afraid they're just going to go in the park, in the open space, and trash it. I just don't feel like it's a healthy thing to do, to build multi-dwelling townhomes or condos. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Frances Valentine. I live at 7047 Aladar Drive.
What was your name again, ma'am?
Excuse me?
What was your name again?
Oh, Frances Valentine. My husband and I just purchased our home on Aladar 2 years ago, and the reason why we purchased it was because we thought there was going to be light industrial in those lots by the house. And we just retired. And this is darn scaring us, like you have no idea. We're afraid of crime. We're afraid of what's going to go on at that park when these apartments are put up. I know about apartment living, and I know it's not good. When you have beautiful homes nearby, you're just going to destroy our property values. So I just don't think it's fair. So thank you.
I think we've hit everybody, haven't we? Guess not. No. Ma'am, over there.
I'm Sandra Cole. We live at 4649 Haystack Drive in Steeplechase. And when we moved to the area about 10 years ago, the only request we had for our realtor was to find us a place with a mountain view. And even though it was a buyer's market, he only found 2. One was in the Loveland area and was our house on Steeplechase, and we purchased that one. And at the time, we were confident that we would always be able to see the mountains because of the HOA restricting the height of the houses in our neighborhood. And to the west, it's light industrial, so we were confident that we would always be able to see the mountains. So if we have 3-story buildings, that would obscure our mountain view. And the second point I'm opposed to this is because before you make a decision, I invite you to be on Crossroads by the Walmart Distribution Center and Resurrection Fellowship Church at end school like 15 minutes before 8 o'clock, before school starts. It's total chaos in the traffic. The traffic is backed up from I-25 all the way to the Steeplechase entrance, and we drive that every day to take our son to school. And right now it's total chaos with the traffic there, and if we have 900 more people with cars driving south, then that would only add to the traffic. So those are my two concerns as to why I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you. Sir, right there.
My name's Doug Brobst. My wife and I are in the process of building a house at 7035 Aladar. I spoke before you when the first project was proposed back in April. Some of what I say is going to be repetitious, but I think it's important that you hear from a number of people just why we chose to buy property in that area. First of all, as I said back then, one of the first speakers said this evening, there really should be some choice in that area. If we're looking at rezoning, there should be some choice between light industrial and going with multifamily. Certainly there has to be some other type of zoning that's more compatible with the single-family dwellings, the nice single-family dwellings that are in that area. I live on the south side of Aladar. I don't know how many of you have ever been on Aladar, but we have a beautiful, open, natural open space behind us. I didn't realize until last week that that open space is privately owned by the HOA that our development is part of. How unique is that we have a privately owned open space there? Now, I hate to use the term policing because that sounds kind of heavy-handed, but if all of a sudden we have 900 new people living in the area, how are we going to police that private open space that we have, keeping it nice like it is now and natural as it is now? Are we going to put up fences? It no longer is an open space if we have to start putting up fences. So I would just encourage you to not pass this particular rezoning proposal, and let's try to do something in the future that is more compatible to the area. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else? Going once? Anyone else need to speak? If not, I would, no, let's not do this here. Mr. Lind, would you, if you would like, you can address some of those comments that were made, and I'm sure you were taking notes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I think what I've got categorized here is traffic. There's concern for the park. There's concern for view and height. And let's start with the most obvious one first, which is traffic. Traffic's coming. Traffic's here. Those of you that know, I grew up farming south of Crossroads, and we used to farm Crossroads. There was no Crossroads. When I was born, Loveland was 20,000 people. So long before Water Valley or Martin Land or any of these things, Northern Colorado resonated. People in this room love Northern Colorado for what it is. But we can't just deny the fact that this is land that's developed for the purpose of, it's put in Windsor for the purpose of development. So the question of traffic doesn't go away simply by the question of what the zoning is. In fact, we have evidence tonight that the traffic goes down with this use. And I can't debate other than the facts, and the facts are the facts. And light industrial zoning has a heavier traffic use than the zoning we're for you tonight. So we can't just pretend it's going to be a wheat field forever, irregardless of whether I own it or I sell it or whatever. The conversation about light industrial versus residential, I personally think light industrial is an offensive use next to residential, but it's obviously not the opinion here tonight, so that's okay. We've left that as a buffer. The question of height and view. Let's be very honest about this discussion. This property is going to be developed. And under the current zoning that's on there, the use by right for the property that we are talking about tonight has a 75-foot height limitation. The highest building in the presentation you have tonight is 38 feet. So it's pretty difficult to pretend that the property is not at much higher risk if you're talking about view, or if you're talking about heavy use, or if you're talking about noise, or if you're talking about light pollution. Light industrial zoning as it is. The MF1 zoning that we're talking about, which we're 0.8 off of, is a lighter zoning, but it's just an honesty. It's just honesty. This is not as heavy a zoning as MF2 would allow. The traffic on Crossroads is a mess. Crossroads has a 300-foot wide easement. Crossroads is going to be opened up to Greeley when we cross the river at the Poudre River. And Crossroads has been designed for 20 years to be a major arterial. Crossroads actually becomes Greeley, Colorado's second interstate access. And it has nothing to do with me. That's just the way northern Colorado's grid system is. Another burden that we have is on the west side of the interstate. The airport, Boyd Lake, and Fossil Ridge Lake block north-south traversing. So in this particular area, we're forced over to the west side. But the fact remains, the zoning on this property allows for a higher traffic count than what's in front of you. So I wish I could snap my fingers, and I wish we could throw light rail in, but I can't. And the reality of it is the reason the traffic's high is because we're all here. We all drove our cars here. One thing that I do want to point out, though, is this building at the Brands is the building that we're desperately trying for and hoping for and anticipating a grocery store. And so when you start talking about traffic counts, what a blessing it would be for the neighborhoods that are represented here tonight to be able to take their bike or to take a short quarter-mile trip to a grocery store. And so had a quote thrown into me tonight that was talked about at a Loveland Council meeting, and I specifically made that quote. He was exactly right. I said, other communities around here are praying this gets turned down because they're going to do the same thing. And so when it was approved in Loveland, we immediately came and we were before this chamber and before the town board with the exact same incentive program and zoning request that Loveland gave, so that we would not have two cities fighting against each other for this. We let the market naturally go where it is. And so I did make that quote because that's what we did. And I feel the same way about Windsor. And we brought that in, and Windsor approved the business assistance to get retail in that area because they know that's Windsor's front door. So I'm here before you tonight to not say that we're the knight in shining armor because we're throwing multifamily in. I'm here because I think we're really good developers, and I think we have a really good plan. And I think we have a great project, and we care deeply about this community. But traffic is traffic. Every car dealer in northern Colorado is selling 300 cars a month. I-25 is a disaster. But that's irrelevant to this discussion tonight. This property is going to be developed. And Mr. Turner's got a great project to the north, but Mr. Turner's going to be bringing in more multifamily as we speak. And that area is going to change. So if you go down to Denver right now, the state bird is a crane. A lot of that was one-story buildings back in the 30s and 40s. It's all torn down and it's 50 stories high. The area that we're talking about right here in front of you is downtown northern Colorado. That's all there is to it. It's downtown northern Colorado. And it's our job to be proactive and think about it, study it, and make it right. So those were the main issues. I really can't address public parks and open space issues. Public parks are public parks, paid for by citizens. People have the right to use them. We have people come into Water Valley and use the parks all the time. That's part of a public park. I will tell you the two things that I can definitely say, though, is traffic is going to be generated higher under the current zoning. That's a fact. That's not arbitrary. And the height and the view issues are greatly reduced. And those risks to this community are greatly reduced by this project. The use by right, and staff's here, is 75 feet. Where this apartment complex is going, the use by right is 75 feet. So we feel like we're doing a nice blend. I live in the community. My granddaughter goes to Resurrection. It's important to me. But the property is going to be developed, and we're asking tonight to have a recommendation of approval to complement the rest of the approvals that we've got over at the Brands, to recognize this area as downtown. It's fluid, it's moving, and to honor the Windsor Comprehensive Plan, which is asking for a diversity in housing. At 82% single family, let's be honest, it's not diverse. There's no diversity in that whatsoever. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. We will,
Can we ask questions of Mr. Lynn?
no, we're past that.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Talon, seconded by Commissioner Bushman, that we close the public hearing. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. Public hearing is closed by a vote of 3-1. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is a recommendation to the town board for the rezoning petition Eagle Crossing subdivision second filing tract. Paul?
Nothing further to add.
Okay. Any further comments from the applicant? Anything else, Martin? Okay. Comments, questions from the commission?
One thing I'm having, want to mention is I know that we're getting traffic because I work all day in it, you know, and I time everything, you know, so it's here, and it's not going to go away. And one of the things that I want to look at is that I look at with how this is developing is we've got arterials and things that are developing now, and again it takes time, but I know traffic's a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem up and down I-25 corridor. So if anybody else doesn't have anything to say, I'll move forward the recommendation of approval of the rezoning petition of the ordinance to the town board, subject to the remaining planning and staff comments as being addressed.
Second. Been moved by Commissioner Talon, seconded by Commissioner Bushman, that we forward a recommendation of approval to the zoning petition and ordinance to the town board, subject to all the issues from planning commission and staff comments being addressed. Prior to voting, I just have a couple comments. You know, it's one of those things where the reason we have all the traffic, and Mr. Lynn was right, is because we're all here, and Northern Colorado is a desirable place to live. I've lived here all my life, and it's one of those things where some people could have said years ago that I like Windsor as it is then, and let's not have any further development, and that's a little tough to do, to turn people away. But what we're trying to do is the development that we have, to do it in a smart and practical way. Mr. Lind has been a developer here for a long time and worked with him with the planning staff for quite a few years. And I'm pretty proud of the things that he's done for the community and the development. So it's one of those things where this will be developed by someone at some time. So if I had a choice, I'll put my vote with him because he would do it correctly. Go ahead and call the vote. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Do we want to get our lonely soul out of the back?
And the motion carries unanimously.
Do you want to get our lonely soul out of the back?
No, he has one more item.
Oh, he has one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's probably asleep.
Preliminary plan, so.
Oh.
We'll just, yeah. Hey, Scott, why don't we take a 5-minute recess?
Okay.
How come just, how come no one?
I think I just
to reconvene our meeting and move to the next agenda item, which is the preliminary plat, Eagle Crossing subdivision for filing. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This preliminary major subdivision has been reviewed in accordance with Article 4, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site vicinity map, it is located northeast of Fairgrounds Avenue and Crossroads Boulevard. Current zoning is industrial and general commercial, pending the town board action on the rezoning. The subdivision encompasses approximately 92 acres, and the proposed platting would create 2 lots totaling approximately 22 acres for land zoned multifamily MF2, which is being site planned on the next agenda item. Those lots being Lot 1, Block 2, and Lot 1, Block 1. There also included is one future development tract of 3.5 acres, tract each proposed to be zoned multifamily. There's approximately 57 acres of land proposed to be zoned general commercial on 1 lot and 7 tracts. And these tracts, 7 tracts, will likely be subdivided further in the future as individual users are identified and their needs are site planned. And there are approximately 9 acres of public right-of-way dedication. The proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, including Chapter 5C, the Residential Areas Framework Plan, the goal and objectives 4 and 5. As mentioned in the previous agenda item, the lack of housing diversity is identified in the comp plan as an area upon which Windsor needs to improve, and this rezoning, this subdivision would help provide more housing options. Chapter 5D, Commercial and Industrial Areas Framework Plan. Again, as mentioned previously, the proposed development pattern would help maintain the character of the area and also maintain ample commercial industrial ground and associated tax base. The residential development may help spur commercial development, while the mix of land uses has been shown to help reduce the length and number of vehicle trips. Notifications for the neighborhood meeting were done in accordance with the municipal code. The neighborhood meeting summary is included in the packet materials. Staff recommends Planning Commission approve the preliminary plat, subject to all outstanding Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed on the final plat. That's all I have for you on this item.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Comments, questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the preliminary site plan subject to all remaining.
Preliminary plat.
Oh, I'm sorry. This one here, right?
Yep.
That's what I was saying.
No, you said site plan.
Oh, I mean,
Plat. Preliminary plat.
preliminary plat, subject to all outstanding planning commission and staff comments being addressed on the final plat.
Second. And moved by Commissioner Talon, second by Commissioner Bushelman, that we approve the preliminary plat, subject to all planning commission and staff comments being addressed. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no. And the motion carries unanimously. Get our Mr. Foreman.
We have one more item.
Mr. Chair, this site plan is also associated with
okay.
the Eagle Crossing.
We'll have to go back to the site plan.
This is on the preliminary site.
Yeah.
There's one on that.
Okay, Paul.
Thank you. This preliminary site plan has been reviewed in accordance with the Article 4, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site vicinity map. The site is located on what's proposed to be Eagle Crossing subdivision, fourth filing, Lot 1, Block 1, and Lot 1, Block 2. The site plan encompasses approximately 21.6 acres. The plan proposes 407 dwelling units, 4 two-story multifamily residential buildings with 14 to 16 units each, 15 three-story multifamily residential buildings with 21 to 24 units each, 645 parking spaces, including 152 detached garage spaces and 492 open-air spaces. 22.7% of the site will be building coverage, 27% will be landscaped area. There's a centrally located clubhouse and pool proposed for residents. The building characteristics include horizontal fiber cement lap siding as the predominant facade material. There is stone treatment around the base of buildings and around external stairways. Covered decks and porches are proposed, and a 512 roof pitch with varying roof lines. The site overview with steeplechase running through the middle, Ward Drive running north-south to Crossroads. These are the 4 two-story units. Clubhouse is located in this area. And landscape plan in 2 different slides. The different building elevations proposed, the predominantly the lap siding with some stone along the bottom and those stairways, and just slight variations on different building types, all similar to that first slide, except for these 2-story elevations. The proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, Chapter 5B growth framework, both the goal and objective 1. Again, the lack of housing diversity identified in the comprehensive plan is addressed partially by this proposal. Chapter 5C residential areas framework plan, the goal as well as objectives 3 and 4 are met by this proposal. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan, subject to all remaining Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed on the final site plan. Do want to request the application and supplemental materials, staff memorandum, supporting documents, and the recommendation be entered into the record. With that, that's all I have on this item.
Anything, Paul? Comments, questions from the commission?
Had one, is it possible in the site to make any area to have like a dog run or anything like that? I know that was one of the concerns with the park up there, and that, especially in an unsupervised park, people tend to pick up after themselves.
This particular park has got a giant detention and open space behind it, so I'm sure there are lots of options.
That would be good. Thank you.
Anything else from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the preliminary site plan, subject to all remaining Planning Commission staff comments being addressed on the final site plan.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Talon, seconded by Commissioner Bushelman, that we approve the preliminary site plan, subject to all remaining Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed on the final. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. And motion carries unanimously. Now we can move on, Mr. Foreman.
Mr. Foreman.
Yeah. Moving into our next item, we will close our regular meeting, open up a public hearing for final major subdivision, Schutz subdivision, third file. John Turner. Paul?
I get to do my thing again.
Yeah, short. Yeah, we're gonna have to abbreviate it.
ditto or something.
I'm going to ask our attorney to give me a new script just so I can, anyhow. Mr. Chair, for the record, I would like to disclose that I'm a sitting member of the town board, and I am here in my capacity as non-voting liaison to the Planning Commission. Although I will be present during this public hearing, I will not be giving my opinion or participating in the discussion. I will not let tonight's proceedings influence or affect my review of this matter when it comes before the town board. I will make my decision at the town board level based only on the evidence presented during the town board public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Paul.
This final major subdivision has been reviewed in accordance with Article 4, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site is located on the northwest corner of Fairgrounds Avenue and Larimer County Road 30. Current zoning of the site is residential mixed use. The proposed plat includes 98 total units, including 30 single-family lots, 11 duplex or triplex units, and 57 two-story townhomes in 3 buildings with 5 units each and 7 buildings with 6 units each. There are 24 tracts for drainage, open space, utilities, and access, totaling about 10 acres. There are 3 small HOA or Metro District maintained park sites totaling 1.2 acres. And there is a HOA or maintained district internal roadway network. And the plat, you can see the single family lots are located generally to the north that transition into the duplex and triplex units towards the center, with the townhome buildings to the south of the site. The application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, Chapter 5B, growth framework, the goal and objective 1. The proposal respects the character of the area through the high quality architecture and by limiting multifamily development to 2 stories. Additionally, the proposed multifamily will be buffered from existing single-family homes in the area by a landscape tract east of Fairgrounds Avenue and by the single-family homes that are proposed with this development. The area is currently served by town infrastructure and services, as well as the water and sewer districts. Chapter 5C, Residential Areas Framework Plan. Goal and objectives 3 and 4 are met by this proposal, as it addresses the lack of housing diversity. Staff recommends Planning Commission forward to Town Board a recommendation of approval of the final major subdivision, subject to all outstanding Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed. Staff requests the following be entered into the record: application and supplemental materials, staff memo, supporting documents, all testimony received, and the recommendation. I do want to note the applicants are here. Should you have any questions for their group? That's all I have.
Thanks, Paul. John, do you have anything that you want to add?
Sure. John Turner, 6379 Crooked Stick, Windsor, Colorado. At the last town board meeting, we had our first reading to extend the Windsor Highlands Metro District into Loveland and down into this property. And this is a signalized interchange. So there's a lot of street improvements going on in here. And obviously we're doing some transitional feathering the density from the Country Farms filing to up into County Road 30. When we did the Windsor Highlands annexation 20 years ago, County Road 30 is split between Loveland and Windsor, and these are things we kick the can till we're doing now. So right now there's a whole street package for Fairgrounds Avenue and County Road 30. So we're going to go build all that, and we've engineered and planned the signal for four-way interchange. So I can answer any questions if you want.
Since this is the public hearing portion of the process, is there anyone in the audience who has questions or comments pertaining to this agenda item? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Cindy Luzinski. I live at 8403 Castaway Drive. It's on the corner of Annapolis and Castaway. Can you explain what the traffic is going to look like there? I'm not clear. Or what would be right across from that area?
Can you show us a map, Paul?
I can't see those maps. I can't. I can see
Sure.
what street is what.
Shows that, here's Annapolis.
Okay.
And Castaway is there.
Right.
Right there.
So we look, and so this is, okay. And so we look right out here.
Yes.
And what are you going to do with traffic then, right? Like, is there going to be another entrance, or this is it? That's the entrance?
No, there's an entrance matching up here, and it circles there. Can you put on the master plan? Paul?
Use the pointer.
That matches up with Annapolis. This matches up with Annapolis, and then this goes into County Road 30.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a new trail system going to the school down here, and then there's one on this side too.
And these are apartments?
These are duplexes, and these are townhomes.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Pat Davy. I live at 8795 Longs Peak Circle. Again, I would like to commend John Turner on his diversity of type of housing he's putting in the subdivision compared to the ones that you did not make Mr. Lynn do.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Dave Mack. I'm the president of Country Farms HOA. Just want that plat. Is there a place on email where we can find that plat for our homeowners?
I can send it to you if you give me a contact.
Okay, I'll give you some contact information. That'd be great. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Stephanie Renault at 8327 Loudon Circle. And I would like to know, I back up to where the retention pond, so can you kind of give an idea of, since we couldn't see, like what kind of landscaping or things are going to be in the, is this what this track D is?
Mr. Chair.
Is the track D the retention pond?
Mr. Chair, I'd suggest we answer these types of questions on the next agenda item, which is the site plan, which does include the landscaping.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. And after when we have that item, if that doesn't answer your questions, just.
Okay, one other thing is that also at that other meeting is it where we can cross over fairgrounds to the other, to Highland Meadow side. Sometimes when we walk pets or anything that light where the crosswalk is at Country Farms, you practically get killed. Nobody ever stops at the crosswalk for you. They a lot of times they can't see it on one side where the sign is. But I didn't know if there was, somebody had talked at one time that there was maybe going to be an underground thing to the other side. I don't know if that's still going to happen.
I don't think that will be something that will be included, but.
So I don't know if it's at this meeting or is it the next one?
It'll, between the next two items, you should see all the information that would. I take a motion to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Tallon, second by Commissioner Bushelman, that would close the public hearing. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no. And motion carries unanimously. We'll now reconvene our regular meeting, moving on to the next item, which is the recommendation to the town board, final major subdivision, Schuts subdivision, third final. Paul?
Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Turner?
Want me to answer a question?
Yeah, why don't you do that now? We get done.
So this is a Loudon extension ditch. They have when we did Country Farms 2, they made us plat that as a right-of-way. A lot of times it's just a prescriptive easement, so they have a right-of-way through there. At one time we were gonna concrete the ditch and they turned that down. They wanted to bentonite. So we're gonna bentonite that ditch this winter to prevent leaking. I don't recall how you guys ended up with the fencing. No rear yard fencing?
No, there's rear yard fencing in the back of it.
But it's at the right of way.
That's an easement, yeah.
It's at the right. So there's rear yard fencing at the end of that, and then that's really the Loudon extension. So we're not lands. It's going to stay more of a native if we disturb anything. Then there's crossings. You can see on that map right at the. I don't even know how to describe that. There's a.
existing walkway.
Yeah, there's going to be two. One from the pathways right there next to I think it's Turfield's house. We'll cross over, so there'll be a bike path from the school.
You probably use your
You want
mouse
to use
there.
the mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, getting technical.
There you go.
All right, so there's the path. This path is already built to here, so we'll extend it up to here, and then staff has requested that based on the timing of this project, that this sidewalk get built with the opening of the school, regardless of the status of this. But it's our intentions to build this first. So those, I think, did I answer any questions? Okay. School is right on Gale's Head. Right. No, it's not on the corner. It's like 100 yards in, 100 yards over. So yeah, just Gail stood up. It'd be right. So, yeah.
Here, let me mark it on the wall.
And we've committed to deliver that school site by the spring of 2018, subject to this getting approved and the Metro District getting approved.
Okay, thanks, John. Question, comments from the commission?
No. Mr. Chair, I move that we forward to the town board a recommendation of approval of the final major subdivision subject to all outstanding planning commission and staff comments being addressed.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Talon, second by Commissioner Foreman, that we forward to the town board a recommendation of approval of the final major subdivision subject to any outstanding planning commission or staff issues being addressed. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. Motion carries unanimously. We're moving on to the next agenda item, which is a recommendation to the town board for final site plan. Schuts subdivision third filing. Paul?
This final major site plan has been reviewed in accordance with Article 4, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. Again, the site location northwest of County Road 30 and Fairgrounds Avenue, and the existing RMU zoning. The site characteristics, as previously covered, 98 units, 30 single family, with multifamily making up the rest of the units. There are 270 parking spaces proposed, 3 small metro district or HOA maintained parks. There will be internal roads and trails maintained by the HOA or metro district. And as Mr. Turner mentioned, there will be off-site improvements to County Road 30, including some trails and sidewalks. The site plan showing the lots and roadway network and landscape plan, and the question regarding the detention area. It would be landscaped around the perimeter with trees and shrubs. The building characteristics, the duplex and triplex buildings would include a vertical board and batten siding as well as horizontal lap siding as the predominant materials. There would be stone treatment around the base of buildings, covered decks and porches, a 712 roof pitch, and attached 2-car garages. The townhomes include stone, shingle, and horizontal lap siding as their predominant facade materials, again with covered decks and porches, 612 roof pitch, and attached garages. The duplex building elevations and the triplex, very similar. The 5-unit townhomes, so the rear of the units with the garage doors and front units with the doors opening onto different streets. The 6-unit, very similar materials. The proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, the growth framework, goal and objective 1, Chapter 5C, residential areas framework plan, goal, objectives 3 and 4. Staff recommends the Planning Commission forward to Town Board recommendation of approval of the final site plan, subject to all remaining Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed. Staff requests the following be entered into the record: application and supplemental materials, the staff memo and supporting documents, and the recommendation. That's all I have.
Thanks, Paul. Comments, questions from the commission? Anyone?
Chairman, I just like to say I think it's beautiful development. It's nice to have the mixed stuff in it. I know that's not always practical in all situations, but it's very nice that you took advantage of the site and be able to do it that way. Great addition to Windsor.
Anyone else have anything?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move forward to the town board recommendation of approval of the final site plan as presented, subject to all outstanding planning commission and staff comments being addressed.
Second that.
And moved by Commissioner Tellen. Second by Commissioner Inkst. Is that correct pronunciation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That we forward to the town board a recommendation of approval to the final site plan as presented, subject to planning commission and staff comments being addressed. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, no. And motion carries unanimously. Next agenda item is a site plan presentation, Water Valley South Subdivision, 24th lot.
This site plan has been reviewed in accordance with Article 9, Chapter 17. The site is located off of Crossroads Boulevard in the vicinity of State Highway 257, off of Rancho Drive. And it is behind the church on Crossroads. The site proposal for mini storage is currently zoned limited industrial, or IL. It is surrounded by residential mixed-use zoning on 3 sides with additional IL zoning to the east. The site plan showing the proposed storage units and site development. The overall development consists of approximately 7.5 acres, building coverage of 83,000 square feet with approximately 30% landscaped area. The building details include cultured stone and stucco as the predominant materials on the external units that are visible from public streets. A decorative screen wall of cedar with gabion basket columns filled with river rock is proposed on the south side adjacent to Rancho Drive, and don't have a good image of that. The additional site details are in the PowerPoint. The current presentation is intended for Planning Commission's information. Should the Commission have any comments or concerns, please refer those to staff at this time. The site plan, as it's been administratively reviewed, two issues have come up that the staff would like to be sure Planning Commission is simply aware of. The proposed architecture, as well as the visibility of storage units from the nearby residential homes. The site images provided. This is looking from north onto the site. So the site would be this area at the end of the street, and looking up from the site at the homes, just demonstrating the topography changes and the view down into the units that would occur predominantly from people's backyards, looking into the storage facility. The applicant did provide a number of renderings of the site, attempting to show what it would look like from the neighborhood. They provided some with trees and some without. I elected to include a couple slides without trees, just given the time it takes for them to mature, to show early on some of the views into the facility. The property was rezoned from residential mixed use to industrial in order to allow the mini storage use. At that public hearing, there were images shown of different innovative and well-done storage projects across the country. The architecture proposed at this time is consistent with storage units built recently in Windsor, but given the proximity to nearby homes, the images shared at the rezoning, staff would like to point out to Planning Commission to make sure they are aware of the architecture, should there be any concerns. And the visibility, I've already discussed that issue. A screen wall is proposed you can see it on the landscape plan. Screen wall is proposed along Rancho Drive, as well as various landscaping, trees and shrubs. The building elevations, so the office area entrance is shown on this slide. This slide showing some of the perspective view of Rancho Drive with the screen wall and trees, and some of the more internal units, architecture. With that, the project is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, including the commercial and industrial areas framework plan, goal, and objectives. That's all I have for Commission.
Thanks, Paul. Since this is no recommendation required on this item, so any comments for staff?
No.
Okay. Move on to the next item, site plan presentation, East Point subdivision lot 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This site plan presentation is also being reviewed in accordance with Article 9, Chapter 17. The site is located to the southeast of State Highway 257 and 392, to the east of the Lakeview Cemetery, on the old Champion auto dealership site. The site's currently zoned general commercial. The site plan includes approximately 2.5 acres, 38% landscaped area, a 6,200 square foot convenience store. There are 2 fuel canopies, which include 8 double-sided gas dispensers and 3 diesel dispensers. The predominant building materials are split-face CMU and cement panel siding with a wood appearance. The site plan, you can see the convenience store located closer to the north and to the highway, with the main fuel canopy here and private drives through the East Point subdivision, which the Planning Commission approved earlier this year. The landscape plan does meet the town standards, with ample landscaping provided around the building and adjacent to the street. Building elevations, you can see the proposed colors and materials are in conformance with the commercial corridor plan. As always, this is intended as a presentation for Planning Commission. Should you have any comments about the proposal, please forward those to staff at this time. And that's all I have.
Any comments?
Chairman? Paul, this is the rotated one as per staff recommendation. The from before?
Correct, this is rotated per the discussion that was happened earlier in
From
the
the
year.
initial?
Yep.
Thank you. That's okay.
Any other comments, questions? Have to apologize to Mr. Ruff. I guess we had so many people here, you couldn't get in the room here earlier, so. Since there's no action item required on this, we will keep moving on to our agenda here. Okay, community development report, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Town Board, or Planning Commission. Sorry. This would have been on last agenda, but since we had the APA conference, it's a little bit late, so it's not as current as we usually have. But this is the community development report that was presented to the town board about 3 weeks to a month ago. So projects under review, we just saw the Brands project that's depicted in this illustration, but we've also had the Rain Dance second major subdivision that Paul's been working on. The Dutch Brothers Coffee is the renovation of the former drive-in restaurant and former car dealership across the street from the middle school at 9th and Main. So Dutch Brothers Coffee is going in there. The Highland Meadows Golf Course office retail, that's Mr. Turner's and Mr. Sherrill's new offices that are being planned just off of Fairgrounds Avenue, just a half a mile south of the school site that we were just talking about. Come and Go convenience store, Paul just presented that. The Ridge at Harmony Road second filing is well underway, and that includes some improvements to Harmony Road east of County Line Road that are part of the improvement plans that engineering's reviewing. South Hill 6 filing multifamily. That's the third of 3 different multifamily projects on the South Hill property just northeast of the 7th and Crossroads roundabout near the grain bin, the Water Valley grain bin. And then Eagle Crossing 4th, the Brands East, and Eagle Crossing 4th, Fossil Ridge multifamily. You just spent an hour and a half talking about those. So these are the projects in South Hill that you see on the top picture. The one to the right, or the one to the lower right, is Christian Brothers Automotive. They're getting close to issuance of a CO, and so I'm sure they'll be having a grand opening soon. The Public Works facility is the bottom left, and that grand opening or ribbon cutting is scheduled for the 23rd. Green Ridge LLC is that industrial building in the upper right. That's, if you're familiar with where Mash Lab Brewing is at Highlands Industrial Park, it's next door to that. And then Highland Meadows Golf Course townhomes continue to be constructed at Colonial Drive off Fairgrounds Avenue. Then infrastructure under construction, the Rain Dance first filing is what's the big earthwork that's being done on the north side of Crossroads. If you could take Crossroads right now, but Crossroads is also closed, as you're aware, for the construction of the roundabout that will be the main entrance into the Rain Dance subdivision. Highland Meadows Golf Course 12th filing is the other multifamily that is currently being constructed at the corner of Highland Meadows Parkway and Colonial Drive. Windshire Park 3rd filing is the multifamily project that was recently approved just north of the Windsor Housing Authority multifamily project off of 15th Street. And then again, the Ridge of Harmony Road is still working on their infrastructure as they go through from first filing to second. Residential building permit activity, through August, we had issued 396 permits. However, since this slide is dated Paul, again, kudos to Paul. He had the entire agenda tonight, and he also had time to put out the building permit report this week. So he's been a busy guy.
Well, he was just doing nothing but sleeping like 6 hours a night anyway.
We appreciate it. And so through September, we've issued 427 single-family home permits. So we were averaging about 50 per month. It's a little less than that now. It's probably going to project to a little less than 600, maybe 550 to 600 by year's end, which is very robust. It's not as robust as it was last year when we issued the 690. That was a record, but it's still very strong activity. And those four, Ridge at Harmony Road, Water Valley South, Highland Meadows Golf Course, and Windshire Park third filing were the top permit pullers this past month. Single-family permits through August, just a comparison to years past. Obviously, last year was the record. We're behind that pace, but we're well ahead of the previous records in 2005 and 2010. 2000 and 2005. Multifamily permits are up, and as was part of that discussion, the comp plan does highly recommend that we look at diversity in housing types. And even though we've got several going now, we haven't historically had a lot of multifamily projects. So these are really helping to catch up, but we're still in need of other different types of housing. So we've got the Lighthouse in Water Valley South, Highland Meadows Golf Course 11th and 12th that I just mentioned, and the South Hill projects up by the grain bin, that those are all under construction. And then the ones that are pending, or actually tonight, you had the final Shuts third filing on your agenda, and you also had the Eagle Crossing fourth. So those are getting close to being building permit ready as well. So the multifamily permit comparison, like I was saying, you compare historic numbers. We didn't have anything until 2013, and now it's going off the charts comparatively. I'm going to update these slides in the coming months to reflect how it compares to our neighboring communities, because we're still nowhere near in the multifamily numbers that you see in Loveland or Fort Collins. And a lot of what was said tonight is relevant because the I-25 corridor is the main arterial through northern Colorado, obviously. So the comprehensive plan recognizes that our interchanges at Crossroads and at Highway 392 are where you should have the most density, because those are the areas that they can get on I-25, and they're not, as Mr. Lynn pointed out, the closer to I-25 you are, the density it can get on those major arterials without having to traverse through town. So
even though the one gentleman tonight said that Windsor isn't out at I-25, I almost corrected him, but I figured, I'll pick my battles.
Sure. No, we are at I-25 at 392, and we're
Been there for a while, yeah.
And we're as close as we can get at Crossroads and Fairgrounds. So residential lot inventory, we've been keeping a little bit closer eye on this just because of the number of permits and to see what our inventory month to month is. And it really does seem to ebb and flow, obviously, as we're approving these subdivisions that you've been looking at. The inventory goes back up, but as we pull 50 or 60 permits a month, it's varying, but we're hovering around the 600 to 700 mark the last couple of years, as opposed to during the downturn when we had a few thousand lots that were on the books, and those, as the economy got better, those did get developed. And then this is just the month-to-month total, again reflecting permits issued versus those new lots coming online. And then just a quick regional comparison of building permits through August. We are, once again, as we have through the downturn and for several years now, have led the region in single-family permits. But again, if I put a table together like this that shows multifamily permits, we wouldn't be leading that the region in that category. But you can see, as I pointed out at town board, it's interesting that the two, I guess, Windsor's the leading the region, then Fort Collins is second at 227, but then the next highest is Timnath, and Severance isn't far behind. They're actually just behind Loveland. So you're seeing the smaller the historically smaller communities are actually outpacing percentage-wise or per capita-wise the larger communities now. And then again, that's just the filler. I haven't had the time to put together the numbers or pull them all together from the other communities. So that'll be in a future report. If there are any questions, I know it's been a long night, but
Can you give us an update on the mill?
yeah, actually, we just gave an update to the Historic Preservation Commission last week. The owner is actively working with Safe Built on their redesign and the rebuild plans. I've sat in on a couple of meetings. It's probably not going to look obviously exactly the same, but they're trying to do what they can to mimic the massing, the height and scale of the old building so that it's somewhat historically correct. They're trying to save as much of the existing brick as they can. Obviously, they've had a structural engineer look at it, and they'll probably have to pull down some of that brick just from the heat of the fire. But they're going to try and use it as much as they can. It's on the Board of Adjustment agenda for next week because as it previously stood, the building was a legal non-conforming building. It didn't meet setbacks because it was built 100 years ago. Now that it's been destroyed, the code technically requires that it be built to today's codes. However, since they're trying to mimic the old building and use that footprint and the foundation work that they've already put into it, they're asking for the setback variance to rebuild at the same footprint. And staff is supportive of that, as is the Historic Preservation Commission. So they're working on that, and simultaneously they're also working with the town management and they'll be working with the town board and economic development on redoing the incentive agreement that was previously approved to reflect the new project. So that's where it's at. We're lucky to have an interested and engaged property owner that wants to continue with the project, and hopefully you'll be seeing that in the near future as well.
Very glad to hear they are proceeding.
Yes, they are working.
Time there was question.
Yeah.
Good. That's good news. Any projection? I mean, obviously it's going to be budget already.
I don't have an exact date, but they're actively moving as fast as they can, and so.
Takes a while to clean the site up.
Yeah, they've been, obviously you've seen they've got equipment out there working to clean the site up, and they'll want to get going as soon as they can.
Good.
That's great, excellent.
Good. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Oh, and I did have one. I guess I'll wait until my turn under communications.
Okay, communication from Planning Commission. I'd like to officially welcome Daniel Foreman, Travis Ingst as alternates. And thank you for putting in your applications, or we wouldn't have had a quorum tonight. So, trial by fire, good way to start. Dan, you have any issue items, communication?
Nothing from me, no.
Okay. Jerry?
I'd like to welcome our new members. Look forward to working with you.
I think they must have lost a bet or something.
Yeah, that's usually what happens.
Well, one request, stay around a little longer than most of the board members have been recently. It's been a great turnover.
I'm
but-
not that bad.
Mr. Talon?
Yeah, I have one thing. Well, again, welcome you guys onto the board. Stay here. It'll be a lot of fun. I can already tell you guys have an understanding and stuff, so it makes a big difference, you know, because you're in the building and in the trades, and I appreciate that. And one thing I was going to bring up to Scott, we talked about it, was I went through to get a business license here, and I realized that for the town is a lot of work for pretty much not getting anything out of it. And I mentioned to him, and I brought it up a long time ago, what I think we need to do in town here is to actually get a contractor's license system set up. We got a lot of guys working in this town that aren't licensed through the state, and they're doing things in this town that we should have more control over. When I look at Greeley, Fort Collins, Loveland, Johnstown, Milliken, you have to be licensed. And it's a better way for you to control, whereas like I would walk in as a master plumber, and I show you my licensing, my liability, and all that, to say that, yeah, you can work in this town. And at the same time, I gotta pull permits, and that's how the town gets their money from me. I see a lot of handymen in this town doing work, doing bathroom remodels where they're doing electrical and everything else, and they're not licensed to do that. So I think we need to get a hold of this, and yeah, I think it'll actually, it's just like the builders out there building houses. They have to, when they pull a permit, they got to list all their subcontractors, and they all have to have a license in the town of Windsor.
Liability and such, right?
Yeah, the liability and all that. I just think that's a better way for us, because then we're assured that we're getting qualified people that are qualified through the state to work in our town.
Right.
We're not getting shoddy work.
Right. Yeah, I know that there have been discussions in the past, but we haven't had a discussion with the town board in quite a while on this topic. So there are things to consider, obviously, with as far as managing the administration of such a program and things like that. And like I discussed with you, I know that SafeBuilt has a module in their software that they use in other communities to track and issue those contractor licenses. So that may have been a tool that wasn't available the last time we had the conversation. But it's definitely something I'll bring up with management and probably see if we can get some town board discussion time, I think. So, but yeah, I think there are probably some ways to do it that we didn't have at our disposal the previous investigations. So we will report back as to our next steps.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good.
No.
Anything else, Victor?
No further comments.
Travis, you have anything? No. Town board liaison, Ken.
Either Scott or I, just a reminder that Tuesday morning, 7 to 8:30, in the conference room downstairs, reviewing Zone Article 3.
Yeah. So it's the first of our breakfast code update meetings.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it, please let me know. If you can, so we have a head count for breakfast. And
That's next Tuesday?
yeah,
I
7
told,
o'clock?
yeah, I told you previously I could. I'm gonna be at DIA at that time.
Okay.
Again,
That's an excuse I've always had.
I'm running the shuttle service.
so yeah, if you can send me an email if you can't make it, otherwise we'll plan to see you Tuesday morning. I guess that was all.
That was
Did
all
you?
I had,
That was all you had.
Okay.
I did also have, I'm sorry if it's my turn.
Go ahead. If you're there.
I just don't want to forget. We had a referral from Weld County regarding the Best Way Concrete Laputer Pit, which is where they've got the batch plant out here at Highway 392 and County Line Road. Just wanted to let you know that due to the APA conference and the timing of everything, we had to send in a letter with our comments to the county. They're going through the use by special review process, and we didn't have an opportunity to bring it before the board at a regular meeting. We're running into this, it's becoming more and more of a challenge to bring referrals given the tight time frame that we've got for getting comments back to the county. So we may want to revisit that process with the board again and see if what your comfort level is for having staff administratively review and approve referral comments with a copy to the planning commission, or if, in some cases, we've been able to get them to the chair beforehand, and just to make sure that there aren't any questions or concerns. But in this case, we were a little more comfortable with sending those, as we've already we sent consistent comments that we've sent to the state, who's also reviewing their mining permit through the state. And the main concerns that we addressed have been things that have been brought up at town board level and through citizens, as far as the truck traffic, spills on town streets, untarped loads, those kind of things. But also, let me pull that up real quick. Just to make sure. We had some drainage issues where the drainage on the north side of 392 was backing up on an unincorporated property owned by the Haydens, as well as the High Hops property. So we've been working with both Hall Irwin and CDOT to get the culverts cleaned out and make sure that the drainage across the Laputa Pit property is draining correctly. So that's something that we are just documenting so that ongoing maintenance will continue. We made the standard engineering floodplain and floodway requirement comment. Streets and utilities, we just made sure that they're aware of our ultimate right-of-way needs, as well as the turn lane, the Connell pit, or the surfer pit on the west side of County Line Road across the street was required to put in left turns and other auxiliary lanes. And we're asking that they do the same thing with the expansion of the Laputa pit. However, we haven't come to an agreement with the property owner in that regard. Haul routes, they are hauling materials in from off-site to the batch plant now that the Laputa pit is being pretty much, the Laputa pit is almost mined out, but they're adding the Lee property that is adjacent to the roads to that. So there will be some mining activity still taking place, but the majority of the belly dump trucks that are coming to the site are coming from Greeley through downtown, and we're trying to work with them on an alternative route, although there aren't a lot of great east-west alternatives. And then interim landscape treatment, we're trying to work with them to try and dress up the perimeter of the site along Main Street, and that's primarily what we had comments on. So just wanted to bring this up and make sure that you were aware of it, and we'll probably be coming back with some way to make sure we're meeting the Weld County IGA and still keeping the Planning Commission informed and getting the Planning Commission input on referrals. So
okay,
that's all I have for that.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Paul, you have anything?
Nope.
Since you're standing up there all night anyway, so I can't imagine what it would be. So. Crystal?
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Ooh.